We'll start the Village of North Bennington Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, April 9, 2013. Start with a review and approval of the minutes of the March 12 meeting.
We're pretty short. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I wasn't there, so I
You have to abstain. I guess I
Is
second.
that okay with you? It's okay.
It's okay. Yep.
Yeah.
That's good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye and aye. The monthly warrant.
What is the JAS
yes,
Inc.? Just a big one, so.
That is the fire truck when it was in an accident or had to be repaired, and we,
Was that the new wall?
Yeah.
Was that part of that? Okay.
Well, it's 4 years old, that's new.
The wall? Is
Well,
it 4 years?
let's just
No,
say it
it's
was
not.
by the bridge?
First year I ever did.
Let's say it's in new condition until this happened.
So this is the repair of the wall
and we did get reimbursement from the
It's to repair the
insurance
truck.
of the
company.
truck.
Okay.
The
What happened to the
brand
wall?
new truck. The wall's okay.
Yeah, okay.
That wall's got a little steel in it. Little slate issue.
It's
maybe
now
on the
got
top.
character.
Yeah.
Character.
And that was reimbursed.
It was.
Minus, yeah, okay. I'll entertain, oh, well, there's an
Addition.
additions.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant with the additions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you have a
I've got
copy?
a
Go ahead.
yeah.
There's also a small Windcoat Foundation warrant.
Yeah, we seldom know what any of these mean, right?
And it doesn't matter really.
Right, because it's not anything.
It's not our money, it's not taxpayer money, and it's just something they're authorized to spend in the grant that they received. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
With that,
I'll second.
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
And a standard payroll warrant.
I'll move we approve that.
Second.
Put these together.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Laura, I have a small complaint about the pen that I borrowed.
I have others.
It seems to be running out. Beggars can't be choosers, but I'll do it. Okay, we have all those dealt with. Citizen comments. Muriel, you have something to say tonight?
I'm just delighted to see progress being made after many years with the new sheds being torn down. They were quite an eyesore for many years, and it's nice to see that it's being taken care of.
Well, again, it's a long process, and it's something that we really, because that land was owned by the railroad, the state has taken care of it. It's not something that we, I mean, we had in the past notified the state of our concerns about it, the safety, but the state's doing it for us, which is another great thing. So it will likely provide some open space and more parking well, this parking lot's often very full, and should the train ever come back, we might have some designated parking there for people going on train trips or whatever, so. Yeah, I think it was time, and I thank you for the comment.
Is something going to be done with his other property on Sage Street?
Well, there's some litigation right now with that, we can't really talk about, but there's some progress, we hope. And at some point, we'll probably have more to say about that, but we're working on it. Anything else?
No.
Okay, good.
Is this a public, can I stay?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, please, please stay. We get lonely sometimes. That's right. Highway, Mr.
Oh, I was wondering if I
Oh, right,
could
you had a citizen
share this. This is actually from my husband, but who could not be here tonight. And he's learned that a upscale train is coming and planning to spend the night outside our station here. This is an excursion. It's composed of private train cars that people own, so it's a very high-end, high-end excursion. They had originally planned to go to Saratoga. They're coming from the Midwest, from Chicago, planned to spend the night in Saratoga, but the railroad over there didn't give permission for that. So they changed their route. So April 13th, Saturday, they'll be here. They had 3 requests of the village. And so let me just introduce that. One, they wondered if the depot could be opened for the folks that are on the train. It'll be 6 o'clock, around 6 o'clock at night, and George volunteered to do that.
Okay.
if
That's okay with the village.
Is that strictly to kind of just check it out?
See it.
Kind of look at it?
See it.
Yep.
Yep.
Fantastic building to
Yeah.
show off, yeah.
Yeah. The second, oh, wait a minute, I could give you one of these.
That'd be good.
You don't have to read over my shoulder, and there's a couple extras for Norm and Walter. The second request is to ask if they can use water from our outdoor spigot for the railroad cars, and they would provide their own hose, and so that's a question.
Did we get that water running today?
Yeah, the water's running, I mean, yeah, I'd say,
There's a spigot right out over here on the outside of the building that wasn't on, and today they needed it for the demolition, so we resolved that, so yes.
Great. And the last question is whether the outdoor lights could be left on that evening for safety reasons. Is
they're
that?
motion lights, so they're on.
Are there motion lights?
Are there some back here?
I don't think there's any back there.
And they'll actually be in their cars.
Well, yes, though,
I mean, they'll
the
go
plan
out
is that
and eat or something.
they would be able, they'd go out to do things. And the company is providing a bus so that they can do some greater, things out in the greater area, but George has also been in touch with Lindy at Kevin's, and so I think to let them know about what's here in North Bennington
Well,
as well.
hopefully, yeah. I'll bet you that the front light can be changed to be on.
Which front?
Is there a setting to
The
move it
motion
on?
one, there might be a switch on it.
Well, what's the difference if somebody walks by, it comes on, that's why it's a motion.
Well, I thought maybe they were looking more for just
To be on all.
I think just to have lights
light, like if they're
on.
walking, I don't know.
We have probably, it's all hardwired to the switch, so, without getting into it and changing some wires.
Oh, okay.
What I'll do is, tomorrow I will go talk to Whitman's Feed Store and see if they can leave their light on over in their parking lot that's over their fuel rail. Between that and the street lights. I'm sure there's more than adequate light.
Okay. Good. thank you.
Okay, that's great, and you know, and if they're,
George can leave this light on, you know, we have no curtains, so that'll light
Yeah.
up through the windows, and we can do that on the other side also. And if you'd like, you know, we can go upstairs and turn the lights on, but, you know,
okay, well, maybe he can check with you, Norm?
George can check with me,
Yeah.
yes.
He'll have a key, we can figure it out. If he
Yeah.
wants to turn on the lights upstairs for the night and turn them off the next day, that's fine with me. I would like to point out that there are other establishments in the area that might also be anxious to feed these people.
Yes.
That maybe George can contact them.
Contact them as well, yeah, we just happen to be down
No, I get
there,
that.
but,
No,
yeah,
it's,
yep, absolutely. We did also, he called the organizer and suggested they be in touch with the Chamber of Commerce, too, as a resource. That was at Lindy's suggestion as well, but yes.
Wow. So these people either own or rent a train car, and those who travel from Chicago to Boston pay $20,000 for the privilege to do that. That would be fun. I wonder if I might not do the QE2 first or something, or travel from Chicago to Boston.
And back.
And back, whatever.
Are they going to Boston? Is this their return?
This is their return, what the highlight of the trip is to take the train through the Hoosick Tunnel from Boston. They'll go to Mechanicville and come here.
So this is their final stop, and then they'll,
back.
Well, I have this,
Move
their
back to the main
original
track.
schedule, yeah. So since they're not going to Saratoga, I guess it's Boston to here, Mechanicville to here, and then Albany to Chicago. And you can,
oh,
apparently...
okay, they're going to, this says right here, they're going north to Rutland.
Does it say that?
Yep.
Well, I'm reading off the
And
other,
And then
South.
south on 291.
yeah.
Somebody ought to let them know, you know, for a couple $100 they can get on Amtrak.
Well, you can do segments, too. You don't have to do the whole
I think you
That's right.
bring your own train car in Amtrak.
Probably not. Well, yeah, I think we can make that happen. And basically, George can do whatever he needs to do, and if he needs to contact Norm for anything, do so during
business hours.
business hours, ideally. I think he's done with nighttime work for the winter, I hope. Okay, Norm. What do you got?
Well, last month we got our picture railing up, and it was on the other side of the train station. They had a concert there. Tom
Fells.
Fells donated several pieces of artwork for us for the village, so it is his. You need to make sure that that's wrote in the minutes, that they are his, to be reclaimed at any time that he wants. I promised him that, and, you know, I don't foresee it coming anywhere in the near future. But, so it's up, it's all hung, it's hung by fishing line. Matt Perry came up here with us and helped us do it. Again, it didn't completely solve our problem, but it will make it so we have no more future problems. So it's pretty good. I know, I don't know if the board's read it, should have been in your package. There was a letter sent from the floods about the sidewalk on Upper Main Street.
Yeah.
Did you read that?
We didn't-
I don't think it came in our packet.
It came in something, maybe she sent, I've seen it.
I know she sent it to the trustees, so I'm sure it came to Lori, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I got a copy.
Yeah.
They came to, and then she sent it to the town office, but, so they're really concerned about that sidewalk on Upper Bank Street, and I know, I believe it's in our Safe Routes to School sidewalk, is that correct? And so, you know, we gotta do something with it. I don't, you know, we got a couple options, we can turn it back into a gravel sidewalk.
Now, the tricky part to that is we can't actually get all the way to where we want to go. Where does the Shasberry line start? Part of that, oh, okay.
Yeah, our line goes all the way, I mean, within a foot.
Is it Hawks or Dunham? I thought it was even Dunham.
No, it's Hawks Avenue.
No,
Okay.
that's where I start.
Okay. I went running there today and it's
a mess.
awful.
You know,
It
so,
is awful.
you know, we got, certainly, I've spoken with a couple different contractors. No matter how you figure it out to redo that sidewalk, we're talking like 10 grand. You know, it's a lot of money to do that patch.
Is that whole block essentially?
That's
to
that
the-
whole lot, that's from the railroad tracks, because around the curve, no matter what we do, in order to maintain it, the sidewalk's 3.5 feet wide, which is not ADA compliant. We've got to do a little bit of curbing. Now,
There's a tree that is an issue too, right?
there's a tree, and the floods are not in love with that tree whatsoever.
Okay.
But I'm not in love with taking it down. That is nowhere near in our cost estimates.
Yep.
Okay, but what we'd have to do is take that bank down a little bit, bring in some gravel, and then build like we did on West Street, pave right over to the corner. Or we can concrete it, but that forms a hard curb surface, and that gets us back into the safe routes for school. You know, we're good there, because it's an elevated surface.
Yeah.
And then going down through. Now, I spoke to one contractor, and it just digging it out and then replacing it in gravel, and then another one comes in with the zipper, like we did on Main Street, and turns the material into gravel in its existing place. You know, it turns it out, they're both, it's very comparable all the way around. I don't, you know, you're gonna decide on, you know, how we're gonna go about it and do it, or we're.
Well, if the cost is the same, which is better long-term.
Both of them will tell you that their idea is better long-term.
What's your experience? Or do we not have?
Both, you know, one, I don't have to deal with the gravel, I don't have to deal with the blacktop that's getting taken out, it's remaining in place, it's getting zipped up. You know, the other one, we're digging it out, we're putting in a known good bed, which we don't know what's there. You know, there's no sense in rolling telling it up if we're not gonna just leave it in place and use it. We've measured it, there's a few branches in the way, we got permission to remove them from the homeowner. And again, we can do both pieces, but you know, I just want you to be aware, and I know we talked about doing some sidewalks. Now, the sidewalk that we want to do is ugly looking, but it's feasible. That was slated on Upper Mechanic Street around the corner to bring concrete to concrete. You know, it's unfortunate because we have that problem. We also have that same problem over on Holton Street. You know, now we can decide that, you know, and it'd be a very unpopular decision right now, but I'll have to tell you, we could remove it and do like we did on some other streets and go to one sidewalk on one side of the street, which is already in
Holton Street you're talking now.
Yes, which is already in existence. And, you know, again, it's no cheaper to build a sidewalk over on that side of the street either.
Where the path goes through the park, you couldn't put
That
it,
goes through the park.
going to Houghton, through.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll leave that piece.
Right, no, but what I'm saying is, we couldn't actually, the only downfall of that is, you can't put a crosswalk there, can you? Because it's on the corner.
Well,
So if you're going, because your idea is to just put the sidewalk on the other side?
yeah, well, because remember, that whole intersection is going to change a little bit
Sure.
here very shortly, so that doesn't mean that we can't have a crosswalk. But I would certainly never eliminate that piece.
Yep.
Around the Veterans Park, we'd keep that.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
We get that. I'm just worried about, so people walking, if you're only gonna put a sidewalk on the other one, and you've got a path that goes through the park,
Right.
you're encouraging them to walk that way, and then you're getting them nowhere to go from there, is what I'm
Why
trying
couldn't
to
you have a
say.
crosswalk there on that?
Because it's on the corner?
But it's not.
It's gotta be, you've gotta have a clear line of.
It's not. It's
But
not.
I'll bet you don't have
I can
far
give
enough of a clear line
my
of sight.
TCD book, because we have, that's a legal crosswalk at the top of Prospect Street, and that's right after a blind corner.
But how far is it from the corner to the, I can't remember what it was, because I remember we were talking,
Yeah, but
I might have been the Safe Routes project.
But that-
The clear line of sight has to be,
yeah, I would.
It might be
I would
close.
have to
It
look
might be
up.
close.
I bet you it's probably a 50-50, but there's probably a 50% chance it could be there.
because ideally, if we do go to one side, you'd have a crosswalk right where that
Sure.
path ends, and then that'd be perfect.
And, that doesn't make it right, but there's already a spot for people to cross the street right there that hadn't been
Sure.
there in existence.
Yep.
Well, we've gotten away from our sidewalk over on Bank Street already, right? I mean, the discussion as to whether, and I think we have to look at the two situations and make a determination.
What do you mean, get the sidewalk?
Well, we've gone from the issue, the letter,
Oh, yeah.
over to what we're gonna do with this one, which
Oh, yeah.
is, another, who knows what we're gonna do, but we've gotta,
No, well, the only reason we transferred over there is just talk about money, because it's
Prioritize it.
considerably.
So now you're
That-
right.
That's 500 feet over there, and it's 500 feet here, and they're just as bad. So.
and you could argue this one's serving more people. Right.
I absolutely agree, but how many people walk on that side of the street? A lot of places are going with good crosswalks and one.
I'm in
one
full
stop.
agreement, actually, that the sidewalk is in best condition and would be most important is the one on the church side. And so we might solve that problem by doing exactly what you say, other than figuring out how people can get to that side of the street. It might mean they have to come up past Jeff Gray's and then cross.
See, but that's that's the worst part of that whole.
That's the
I know.
toughest,
That
that's
whole
the toughest part of
sidewalk,
the.
See, I almost wanna get rid of it right there.
That whole thing, and that is 3 feet wide.
Yeah, that's right.
And let's go back to your plan, and, again, talking about one and the other. On Holt Street, we have a silent street with one
Good.
complete ADA compliant, beautiful sidewalk. On Bank Street, we have
We have nothing.
none.
Right.
So that's,
And that doesn't mean that we have to talk about removing that today.
No.
But, unfortunately, how unpopular that would be my suggestion.
I don't know how unpopular it would be necessarily. I mean, having a yard that extends right to the curb, being able to put, a garden right out on the,
But they did that on Union Street in Bennington, the upper end, and it looks really nice. I think people like it, actually.
so, and there's what? There's 5 houses.
Well, and maybe this is pertinent, maybe we're talking about it right now. We put a flyer at our local places that we publish something for the residents if they'd like to talk about it next meeting.
Sure.
On a regular scheduled meeting, and then we can make a decision on Holt Street at that point in time.
Right, and I would go further than that and actually notify each individual directly, to expect everybody to always read.
Especially
Legal notices.
when you're only talking.
Right, it's not a
handful of
major,
houses.
that's right. I think a flyer to everybody's door would be easier, and you wouldn't have to warn any further, because it's really not an issue to people who don't live there. Well, let's consider that, and then let's take a look at the situation at, I mean, I obviously want to see who you talk to and what they're thinking, and whether that tree should or should not go, and what you're saying, in order to be part of the safe routes, that has to be a curbed.
Well, when we met with the Safe Routes School, if it's not curb, it has to be elevated and so far from the street.
Right.
Okay?
Remember, we were gonna go around that tree.
Right, and we are,
But again, remember,
we've got a little bit of both, and we can curb it. We need to do something to hold the machine onto the sidewalk no matter what.
and that was only to get the grant, which we didn't get.
Right, but
So
they're
we can
coming up
actually-
in the fall.
Okay,
It
so
is
is
coming
I
that-
got notification last month, I
Is
think.
Amy Pope still?
No, someone else.
Maybe that's why, because I haven't gotten
And,
anything
and
recently.
I was notified that the round's coming up again and that
Okay.
we would be given an application.
Okay.
I had a question. Is it an issue in terms of plowing, what surface we put up there?
Not what surface, it's the width. One is ADA compliant, and two is the width. And, you know, for years, and again, God bless them, we bought machines to adapt to our sidewalks. And, you know, we've now hired Norm, and Norm is going to make our sidewalks adapt to the world, and we live in it. So we will deal with what we have, but when we replace them in compliance. You know, and that sidewalk is just falling apart. We've done a asphalt sidewalk up on Prospect Street, and it holds up. You know, in each spot, they both have a different world. But honest to goodness, in the end, they're almost very close. You know, the asphalt is cheaper. The asphalt's a little cheaper. It's a little cheaper. It's not. It's not. You know, $2,500 cheaper. It's not, and I figured it out both ways. I figured it out, again, you know in your head right now, the contractors that I've spoke to, that do all our work for us, the different guys, and no matter what it goes, it's the same. You know, it's
Well, asphalt has certainly gone up in price much faster than concrete has, too. There was a time when it was very different.
And, you know, with their maybe doing a lesser base, asphalt has some give to it, and it floats where concrete, when it heaves, it breaks a joint, and then you end up with a piece of separation. You know, but the longer we go, asphalt's going up in price, and you know they're holding everything for the first month. You know, so we wait unless we get a special meeting. We wait, it's just gonna go and just get more money. And, you know, believe me, I spent a day trying to figure this out. Left, right, it's 500 feet. You know, it might be a ton difference here or there, or, you know, and that's with us, again, buying all the gravel, hauling it ourselves. You know, it's just...
Well, let's sometime in the next 3 days, this week, have a look at it. Maybe if any of you that are interested want to, you know, go find Norm and go take a look, or just look on your own and then go find Norm and talk about it.
No, I'm very familiar with it. I run it a lot. It is. And actually, I was surprised.
Is it broken up marble, or is it just nothing?
So
No,
concrete.
it was
Not concrete, excuse me. It was an asphalt,
It
wasn't
was
it?
an asphalt sidewalk, and again, it was just like on the West Street side. Talking to, well, one of the homeowners is new, but it's still, they're both in the same family. It was a sidewalk that the homeowners actually paid 50% in, and I kind of pitched that, but that I wasn't getting any, I wasn't getting any life on that one. You know, so it was a match back in the day in that sidewalk. You know, again, it's a blacktop sidewalk, but that sidewalk's been around since the early 60s.
Yeah.
So
You got a lot of room where it starts, and then the closer you get to the tracks is where it gets really...
well, that's where, you know, we get carried away.
Because there's a lot of green space between the sidewalk and the road along the houses. Once you get past the houses, when it
If
really
we
gets...
sit there and say, you know what, to hit the state route for school, maybe we can add this to our match. Because again, this was one of those sidewalks that just blew apart.
There was no match with the safe routes.
Oh, I thought it was, okay.
I don't know, but I think, you know, once we do it,
But it
then
showed
we'll go back
that
and
we,
say...
you know, one of the things that it showed that we had to actually put money in our sidewalks and we actually cared about fixing them.
That's
I do
right.
remember that.
Yeah.
If we wanted to remove that tree, I've been led to believe by the homeowners that it wasn't a problem. But that, you know, that's another couple grand.
It's an old maple.
It's big.
Yeah, old maple.
Huge.
Starting to cab off and get, yeah.
And unfortunately, there's no power lines there, so I can't call my buddies.
All right, well, I think, I can't just say, let's replace that sidewalk tonight, because I haven't seen it. And, you know, I know that there's no chance of putting one on the other side, right? It falls right off there.
No, and the other side is where, in the state, where the village of Shasberry is looking into redoing that road from the railroad tracks. They're actually gonna maybe, and it's a long shot, but they're maybe gonna accept our little piece. And if they do, and they get a grant, that road's gonna get a little bit wider, and it has to go on
that
the
way.
other side.
Yep.
Which that bank needs to go.
And that's an old concrete, it's concrete.
That's the
that's
old
where-
concrete
yeah.
road, the concrete will stay there, it'll be expanded, you know, and eventually in 10 years, you'll have, just like you drive up Route 7, you'll have that dip on that side. But, you know, it'll be an improvement. And if all those deals hit, but it would actually be better for us to, again, that's a long shot, but to have our sidewalk in place, so we're not ruining the track machinery and
Well, there's some money in the reserve fund, you know, for sidewalks. That's why we were gonna use it up on, you can still walk across the one on Prospect, you know, maybe we can do them both, you know, who knows?
Yeah, from memory, that one is the worst we've got. And it's worse now. I haven't been out there in a while. Today I did go on.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot worse over this winter. It's gotten a lot
right.
worse.
Oh, yeah, it heaved this winter, it's something terrible.
Well, then we got the problem up on West Street. That the plow tractor hit.
Well, that's all our.
I know.
We expected that.
I know, but it's a complete mess. Now, maybe that, and there isn't a sidewalk on the other side.
But there's a lot of times we don't even plow them, because
Okay.
the kids, they
It's
can
not-
come and they can walk in front of the school.
Yeah, the kids don't use that, but
Nobody uses that. You know who uses that? Is the sidewalk plow that it ruins to use it. You know, that's another one that should be strongly looked at,
it could be removed.
you know, something done.
Well, we gotta remember, there's not one on the other side,
No, but there's also no houses on either side.
but you've got,
It's a linkage
but you've
from,
got the school there. You've got
but the school kids, like I said, there's an east and a
No.
west entrance.
the other side. You've got the Head Start.
Oh, the Head Start.
So, I mean, not that they would probably use that a lot, but something to think about.
I don't think they'd use it at all.
Probably not, but
There
something
might
to
be
think
people who
about.
live out on McCullough Road,
Sure.
walking into town, but, well,
That's a small, you know, and I know you say it, but it's, as far as sidewalk maintenance for the highway department, that one up there is kind of a small fish in the pond.
that's what I think.
You know, the steps there to get onto, either way, onto the school street sidewalk or there, you know,
That's a-
they need to go, and by the time you do, an ADA compliant sidewalk is, 1 inch per, like, it's almost 2
Per 12 feet.
Yeah, you gotta dig
You
a lot
know,
out.
it's, you know, that whole thing's gonna get ripped out and lowered anyways, or abandoned. You know, it's unfortunate that our neighbors that own the Head Start building next door have those nice fruit trees there, because that is a flat, and we can continue up the sidewalk and go right straight and stay on that side of the street.
All right, well, see, now we're starting to reanalyze the entire
That's
sidewalk.
the whole thing.
Let's start with looking at this one out on West Bank Street Extension and maybe having to make a decision in between. I mean, I can't really imagine you being able to do the job between now and May 12th.
Between May 12th, why May 12th?
The next meeting, whatever the next meeting.
Yeah, actually,
7.
I would say the blacktop plan will start out, you know, if you don't get people scheduled. I mean, we'll do, again, the board can do whatever you want, but I think we should make a decision and decide which way we're going.
And are you saying that it's either do that or have Keith maybe do the job, or?
No, no matter which way you go, it's just, once you get past the initial couple weeks of all of the plant starting,
Right.
then the price could change. Fuel hasn't gotten any cheaper, and everything's made by it.
Yeah.
You know, right now, they're holding out last year's prices to get everybody started.
All right.
I mean, we can make a decision, not make a decision next week, but
Right.
I would like, you know, I would love to have another meeting, say Monday night,
What if we could
and then we can decide between the board.
Could we come in there and do a quick fix, flatten it out, Gravel?
It's junk, it's all.
No, I mean, get rid of it all and just run in gravel.
Oh, running gravel? Yeah.
And then with the anticipation that maybe with this grant, we'll actually be able to put something down there. I don't know,
Yes, that would probably be better than the broken up
Then
blacktop that
nothing.
we have.
Right.
I don't, it wouldn't be,
No,
It
it'd
would
be
be
a
great.
1 to 2 year fix in the same way that a lot of the things
Yeah.
we're doing. Okay. What else you got?
well, the only other thing is that we got our end of the month expense report. I know you haven't had time to look at it, but I can tell you right now, because I've been trying to watch this pretty closely, but the vehicle maintenance one, okay, and that includes our fuel, okay, and that number is probably really true, but that's really close. So that's just something that you'll have to understand, that budget's gonna go over quite a bit this year. Mainly because we had some breakdowns, and it wasn't a breakdown on something that I've acquired through the state.
No,
So
I
a
know.
breakdown on one of our frontline trucks.
It's on the red truck.
Where we had to fix, so, there's $4,000 there that, right now, so we've got mowing to do, we've got street sweeping to do. We're trying to stay away from some trimming to ease it, but I just want you to be aware of it. And I'm $40,000 under in another line item, so.
Well, for good reason though.
But,
I mean, we're hoping to use that on the Bank Street, but yeah, I get that.
you know what I mean, so just certainly be aware of it.
I would like to say, contrary to some people's opinion about the street sweeper, that the job you did last week was fantastic. It was a wet day, like you said, and just, I think that saves a lot on the DIs and keeps it from ending up there where we have to suck it out, and
Oh, it does, and again, with our relationship with Peckham, we chip sealed the road last year, and there was $5,000 worth of stone, and we didn't buy it. That's real money. We have $3,000 into that piece of equipment, total monies, 3.5 years ago.
yeah.
And besides oil changes.
Yeah, it's fuel is certainly an expense on that time, but it's,
But even that's not a problem,
right.
But it keeps our village clean.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's just nice when you get just out of winter and you drive up Main Street and there's no piles of grit and gravel piled
Normally
against the
likes it
curbs.
clean.
That
I
ends
know.
up in my screens on my house, so I definitely appreciate it.
Well,
I mean, on Main Street, every time you drive through there, if they're clean, that dust just gets thrown up.
right, and we will be back, we've swept again, because we share with a few people to hold our agreement, and they'll have it back for now. We've actually went into Shasberry, we've swept a lot of Shasberry with their curves, we help them out. We're givers, the village of North Bennington's givers. And in about a month, we'll get it back, and we'll have a rainy day, and we'll sweep again. 'Cause if we could get people to stop throwing garbage out on the road, and cigarette butts,
Good luck with that.
we could make this place nice, but, other than that, it's a lot of effort, so.
Oh, you know what? I was asked by someone, do we have
We're all out.
a garbage pail for McWaters Park?
No, and we never will.
Because she's down there every day picking up trash.
The difference in the trash, and I agree with it, I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same person. It's not in the park, it's over the bank in the park, and it's people driving by in their cars tossing.
Oh, I don't know.
Problem
I
is,
shouldn't tell them exactly there, but.
we have trash cans at all our parks in the town, and we constantly clean around them. Everybody sees it, and if they get 10 feet close to it, they throw it in. Talking with the people who run the vets home, when they took the trash cans out of the deer park, it cut down on trash considerably. We never had one, and you know
It
what?
would become a dumping station.
I'll be tooth and nail. Up here at the skateboard park, we get homeowner trash, almost every day.
Yeah,
Homeowner trash,
Oh,
Just
no.
bring it to the garage, leave it at the garage, so I don't have to go pick it up, scatter it all over the place.
right.
Matter of fact, George picked up a TV set and a humidifier today off the street. And I gotta go get it at the Lori's house tomorrow, get rid of it. You know, what a nice,
What a guy.
you know? Because people just throw trash out.
I think you're right, Norm. It is people just driving, and they're not the ones that are gonna stop and go, oh, there's a garbage can,
You know, and it's too bad, because I know, the people into the park trying to change it into this edible garden, and, you know, and I'm sorry, I forget the doctor's name. What's her name? Wood.
Avery Wood.
You know, if that ever comes to existence in that picture, I mean, that's gonna be something to see. That's gonna be just amazing.
Good stuff.
And that's a lot of effort. But that's who it is. When we go up Park Street, there's 2 Budweiser cans and a Coors Light can thrown out every day in the same spot.
Park Street, huh? Okay.
So, and we've done our first grading of Park Street. We didn't spend a lot of time there because we were supposed to be here, and then when this canceled, I tried to beat the rain, so I did a rough grade on the upper end. That was real bad. There's still a lot of potholes. We've got to get back into it where I can spend the whole day, but at least we've started to.
Good, I was gonna ask.
So,
Remember the road races, first weekend in May.
you know, I want to talk to you about that road race. We'll talk afterwards, because I think I got an idea to make it a lot better for them.
Okay.
So,
All righty, thank you, Norm. DRB, do we have anything? Fire department? Any of you going to their dinner Saturday night?
Oh, yeah.
Will you go with me?
Okay.
Because my family will be gone and otherwise, and he has to work.
I was looking forward to it. I thought I had a great time with that last year.
Are you going?
I have to work.
I'd let them know I couldn't be there.
Lauren, what was it?
It's a
I have to work on
pretty good
it.
one.
It is, it's a great occasion, too. Lots of awards and
Yeah.
recognition.
Do you remember what time that is?
I need to look.
Okay.
Not quite sure.
Okay. Water board. I don't know anything there. Apparently we need to appoint members to the DRB and the Planning Commission.
So I have a question about the water board.
Yes,
Jamie had been a member.
he's still a member of the water board.
He's still planning to continue that?
I think he said he was gonna
He
continue.
said he would.
Okay.
We'll see what happens there.
I missed that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Carry box books in for me.
Sure, can you help
We need them to appoint.
to make that appointment?
Oh, we have to look and see. All right, well, maybe while we're doing that, I'll bring up some
What
other,
are we looking for, the book?
well, she's got all the ones that need to come in here anyway, from the annual. Are we having another public meeting about the West Street thing?
what's that?
Let's see, it listed.
West Street traffic speed limit, public meeting,
Is,
today, right now.
I believe we are.
What did we resolve?
Had we
with that?
already had one?
Yeah. Thought we did.
We had.
Maybe we did not.
We had resident come and talk about the concern,
Okay.
and I think this was the follow-up,
All
that
right.
in order to do anything about that, we needed to have a public meeting.
What was it?
Unless it happened last month when I wasn't here.
One, well, was the speed limit and then the stop. sign.
Right.
And I wasn't at the meeting when the residents came, so I don't know if it's
It had to
two different
do,
residents, two different issues, or same resident, same issue. The stop bar issue is where.
You can't do anything about that.
well, I think the concern about that was that it, right, you couldn't see, being able to see the oncoming traffic.
Right, and unless they're willing to speak to another entity in the town to remove a bush,
Here and here, and then
that can
two
change.
here.
Okay.
Bruce, Rachel, Dan and Rachel.
Okay, there are, for the planning commission, there are term renewals for Robert Howe, Dan Taub, and Rachel Schumacher. There's no one else who apparently wants to run, so we just need to make a motion to reappoint.
I will make a motion to reappoint.
I'll second it.
All those in favor for those three?
Aye.
Aye.
You know, I'd suggest that we might, these are all great people, and so what I'm saying has nothing to do with that, but I'd suggest that at our annual meeting, we let people know where the openings are going to be and see if anyone is interested.
Would be interested, yeah.
You know, I think Bennington publicizes where they have their
We
openings.
should do
and
that better.
Yeah.
We have done that in the past. I think it just got, probably my oversight this year.
And again, it
Of course,
doesn't,
it's in the book that everybody gets, so,
Well, yeah.
but you're right. It's always hard to find people to want to fill the spot, and if we did a little more campaigning, that might help. For the Development Review Board, it's Bruce Lehrman and Rachel Schumacher. And I will entertain a motion there.
I'll move, we appoint Bruce and Rachel.
I have a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did we do that? Is that all we needed to do? Other new business? Anything on the new?
Well,
I guess it'd be the credit card policy you'd like to bring up.
right, and Gail had approached me saying that the town of Bennington had revised their credit card policy, and she had a model policy that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns had. What I'd like to do is just share, well, first, I'd like to understand more about what's happening currently, how it works with credit cards, and distribute the policy for people to take a look at. Perhaps now, when tax season is over, have Gail
Gail could give us a little more.
and talk
Yeah.
more about what she thinks.
What
would
it
be-
sounds like is the issue, and the concern that Gail had is that there have been times where she's had to pay late fees because she doesn't get an approved warrant to pay the bill until it's until it's too late. And so it looks like we could sit down and do an analysis. It's one card, right?
Norm has one and I have one.
There's two cards. Do an analysis of when the due dates are for those cards and see if there isn't an opportunity to change the dates. I know that Lori has tried to do that with the card that she has.
Yeah.
But that's usually not a hard thing to do, and if it's hard to do with the local bank, then maybe get one. I know I can go online and change it anytime I want.
Right, yeah, I've done that too.
I'm not sure this policy does anything to address that.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's a timing issue or something
Right.
like that.
Which seems like, from what I understand, is what her concern was, the bill not being paid.
Well, that was one of the things she mentioned to me, and she did mention that the model policy, and I think the changes that Bennington made are and put in place checks and balances around that too. So I'd like to...
You have copies for-
Yes, I have copies, and
Just one of the big things, and again, I deal with Bennington all the time, and I know a little bit about Gail's concerns. You know, Bennington pays their bills twice a month. They do a lot of things different, and their staff is considerably a lot larger.
There's a lot more cards out there.
You know,
For sure.
so,
Why do you always
you know,
think
I've asked, you know, at certain times that we've had special meetings to pay bills for, you know, working with small private contractors that need to be paid. If you want to solve the timeliness problem, then we need to meet twice a month. Just, again, and just like Bennington does, we're in charge of a village. We kind of got to act like we're in charge of a village, and we need to pay bills like a business, and not once a month. And that's, That's why that happened, and you get that 1 month where the Tuesday falls wrong and it spins it right out of control. And a lot of times I foresee that. That's why we get bills paid ahead of time. You know, that credit card's used on places that we don't have accounts, that we don't want accounts, or we're never gonna get accounts. So, you know.
We're looking at the difference between the 7th and the 13th, right?
Yep,
That's the range in which a
exactly.
meeting can happen. A bill is usually sent out by a credit card company, how many days do you have to pay? It's 28 days or 25 days.
25, I think.
There ought to be a date in there where it would be very simple to set up the card payment so that we don't have to meet twice a week. You know, you'd get the bill.
Yeah, like if it were like on the 16th or something.
You need to get the bill by the 1st
Right.
or 3rd and enter it into the warrant and then have it paid by the 16th there. So that, but that's not all that's being addressed here, and I think we need to read it and study whether or not we feel that that this is pertinent really to
our
to our two
situation.
cards.
Right. The other thing she had mentioned, and this may be a separate issue, is whether there'd be savings if the town, and I don't know what the credit cards are used for, but if there were some of the purchases that could be made in bulk or anticipated and made, she'd mentioned a company that she uses, and I know Sunrise uses it too, and for more around supplies. They do office supplies, they do cleaning supplies, things of that sort, and that might be a preferable way of purchasing than, and I don't know if. the
Well,
credit cards
I think
are
you
used for
do. You know, what was...
We don't purchase cleaning supplies with a credit card.
that. Okay, well,
Right.
that's good to know.
We have an account, you know, and then, yeah.
I think that's what we need to do, is do an analysis of the cards. Let's look next month at some bills and see what those items are.
Sure.
And if they're not things that we can...
Okay,
See.
and maybe Gail might be able to come to
If she
that
could come to
meeting
the...
since,
Right.
you know.
Or this is not an immediate urgency, and so when she's free, we can have that discussion. It'd be the best
And
thing
like,
to...
you know, at Sunrise, how many people do you have in your staff?
Well, I know, it's bigger, 30.
Right, and that's, you know, sometimes that's a lot of, you know, do I go to Home Depot and buy a $2 screw, or do I fight traffic in August to go to Greenberg's?
Where the
Go get
account is.
something? And that's, you know, and that's a bad example, because, you know, a lot of times I just pay for that out of my pocket and just come back, because it's the smarter deal. You know.
Yeah,
You know, sometimes our staffing is, it's the smarter way to do business, the way we're doing it.
Who has access to that card? Do you and your employee?
No.
Like,
Yeah,
would
I'm giving it to him if,
Go to Home Depot?
right, if he's
yeah.
going to get something, but then he comes back and he gives me a receipt and hand it back, and the receipt goes to
Yeah.
Lori at the end of the month.
And we
bill.
staple them to the credit card bill.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
go to Gail.
And you're the only other one that
I'm
would...
the only one that uses the one that I have. And usually for supplies, like for ink,
Yeah.
things
Well,
like
I'm sure
that.
that's one that she thinks, that from the bulk standpoint, one could do that.
Yeah,
And
it's cheaper,
she's-
it's cheaper in Walmart, but I can look at the bulk. I've looked at the bulk
Right.
before, and it's still cheaper in Walmart, but
Well, like I
I'm
said,
willing to do that again.
I'm somewhat skeptical that this is terribly important, but if she can come and convince us otherwise, I'm all about it. I mean, you know, some of these things are obvious, you know, prior to separation from the town, the
Oh, I know,
car
yeah.
holder will surrender their card. I don't know that we need a policy for that, but...
The other thing, speaking of things like that, is we, at the annual meeting, got the sense of the town to do a charter review, and so setting up a process
We do
to
need to
do
do
that.
We do need to do that. We should have some,
I'll look at the minutes, but I think that you had volunteers to help you out with that. And I will look at those minutes, because
I can't remember exactly.
you did have volunteers
Okay.
to help you out with that.
Well, that'd be good, so then we could
And
set
I'll
up
look at
time.
the annual, and I'll send you a copy of that.
Thank you.
I'd be interested in doing some of that, and one thought that occurred to me was sitting down with Stu Hurd,
That would be the
and because Bennington's done this recently, and,
Actually, I recall saying I should call Stu, and I have not. So
Oh, well,
I have
I
dropped
thought-
I've dropped the ball on that.
Well, I'd
But you
forgotten
could, you could.
So, yeah.
You could
well,
call
it's
him.
just down the street, I mean. it's-
Right. I'm getting into my busy time, so it's harder and harder. Good point. We don't want to drop the ball on that, because we do want to definitely have some recommendations regarding that by the next time around. Any other new business? Old business? There's a West Street traffic speed limit public meeting. Is that what you have on there, Lori? Was
I
that?
did put that on there, and we were going to discuss it further
Because Janice was going to go look at all the...
at all the signs, and we didn't want to do
Oh,
that
the
last
whole
month
thing.
because you weren't here.
Well, then let's postpone it
Yeah, well, I haven't done that.
and start
Okay.
looking at the, you've been busy going around to Hawaii and, not that I didn't too, but.
Yeah.
No, I think, right, we should look at it as the whole.
So this is the question of whether we need to make, as I remember it, if we make a change, to make a comprehensive change if it made sense.
Is there a way to post even at the limits of the town, the speed limit on all public roads
Or
kind of thing?
the,
And get rid of signs, or,
Yeah.
I just don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so I need to do that.
I mean, in our small village, it doesn't seem like there's any street that should be slower than another one, really. They should all be slow, right? Aside from.
Yeah, they seem like they're all about,
Well, like
200 yards long, we talk about all these other streets over here.
College Road is a faster road,
That's a little different.
you know, Mechanic Street,
But I think we're talking within the village.
you know, it is in the village.
It is.
It's in the village, but within the village. Well, that's
You know,
what it is,
it's-
right? Or the historic district, or whatever this is referred to.
If-
The downtown,
if you-
yeah, thank you.
In our MUTCV book, it's not very clear, but if you post a speed limit at the four corners of your town, your village, then that's the speed limit in it. You know what I mean?
So it's unless it's
You can't-
otherwise posted.
Right, yeah, so you change it for everything, and it's really vague, whether, you know, it would be, you know, enforceable.
Right.
You know, we put up a stop sign for some construction a couple of years ago, and that was a forcible stop sign, but it wasn't enforceable for the village of North Bennington to collect the proceeds from that. The proceeds from that ticket went to the state into that big fund, and then everybody gets a little piece in the end. It's kind of a weird deal.
Okay. So we need to explore that a little more. You know, Frank, yeah. There isn't much of College Road that should be as fast as it is. I mean, just that last little stretch, and that's where the police all sit anyway, so.
Right, and we haven't had speaking of police presence, we had a concern about a stop sign on Mechanic and Overley Road, Madison Road, and there's been a considerable presence up there. I usually see the officer
Good.
once or twice a week to talk to them, and I'll find out how they're coming with their enforcement in that corner. But, you know, I would love them to report back to me that they stayed there and twiddled their thumbs and didn't write a lot of tickets, you know. People complain that they don't see a lot of law enforcement in the village of North Bennington, and I assure you, because I'm here all day, we have.
So, yep.
But I'm really glad that they don't have to come around with it,
That's right.
you know?
The only other old business that I have, and I guess it's old business, is, we seem to be getting battered from all directions on this station use policy. I think that we've been successful in seeing this building get some more use, which I think we are all for if the use is appropriate, and I think that particularly we've defined the use of this building as appropriate for the arts, obviously, with the music series that Tom Fells does over here, and obviously the art sculpture park show, which they're not going to use this year.
They're not gonna use the inside.
That's right.
But they're still using your prep.
Right. And I have had requests, as you recall, Lindy came looking for use for a vendor to sell wine or something, and I felt that that really fell outside of, I think we all felt that it fell outside of the intent of the policy, and took some heat for that, but I don't see it as an opportunity really for someone to just make money. The request that is most recent is for some musicians in town to hold a workshop. The Gillettes, who are well-known folk musicians, songwriters, want to do a song, I believe it's a songwriting workshop, that's what they've written books about. And this is a good gathering space for that. My feeling is they will be charging people for this service, but they're providing a service, not a product. In the same way that the state, the park edible garden people have seminars here in December. A tuition is charged. It's not really a money-making venture. It's just covering people's costs. And so my question is there a way that we can define this use policy so that we can expand to some degree its use without necessarily opening it up for things that we might have philosophical or concerns about its use by different parties?
Yeah. Again, I think as a board, we can't really bring our philosophical views in.
Oh, no.
It's gotta be, to me, it just needs to be
Church and
black and
state
white.
stuff. There was a question at one time of whether the church down on the corner could have revivals on town property, and I think that was a pretty easy no, from my standpoint, because, you know, this is owned by the whole public, and maybe I'm wrong with that, but I think that's where we actually established our initial policy, was that we wanted to be able to say yes and no. Not based on our own views, but maybe defending the public space is, I don't know. I'm gonna get myself in a hole.
I don't know, I just feel my point is that if you allow it for an individual to make money out of here, it's hard to tell one person that you agree with what they're doing to make money and you don't agree with what somebody else is doing to make money.
Well, but again, can we define making money? You selling wine? Or are you providing instruction?
But again, they're both making money. We're deciding that selling wine is less important than teaching somebody to write a song. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, if I were gonna argue my point and I was the guy selling the wine, I'm wondering why you're letting somebody else use your space as a money-making opportunity where you're not letting me. Granted, you could say that, well, learning to write music is educational, but you know, some people take their winemaking and other things and they can be teaching.
Well, winemaking would be a different thing. I'd be all about it. A seminar.
I don't know, maybe I'm not saying this quite the right way, but I have a hard time saying yes to somebody and no to somebody else when ultimately they're kind of doing the same thing, just in different ways.
What if we were to define the use, regardless of profit or not, to involve either, the arts? I mean, broadly defined, I suppose. Winemaking might be an art, but, or wine drinking for that matter, but it seems to me we have been very much supportive of the arts with
Oh, and I don't disagree with that,
yep. We have said that when they hang the show in there, that there can't be any vending of the art. Well, let's not fool ourselves. Art is sold. It's just not sold there. Right? I'm just assuming that somebody says, hey, I want to buy that. I think.
But again, with that too, we've got to take them for their word and assume that they're not.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm not assuming that it would even be against the policy.
No, it was, because I think the agreement there was that if they did sell art, that we would get, that the village would get a percentage of it.
And if they're using that as a.
And he assured us that,
Yeah.
and we were told that they hadn't, and so you gotta take them for their word on that.
Sure.
I don't know, I just,
Well,
I don't wanna be the person
You want to be the gatekeeper.
that has to decide one way or the other, and if they come to the board, then we are. And for me to say no to one person and yes to another, I would have a hard time with that.
but I think,
Unless it were a clear, if we had a clearly written, defined policy on what was allowed and what's not allowed, then that would be different, because then we can just refer to the policy. But if I'm
Well, that's what I'm
making
getting
a
at.
judgment as to whether I think,
We need to have such a policy.
that I agree
I
with.
think we need to be have a policy that's consistent, because otherwise we open ourselves up to liability.
Yep, absolutely.
If we turn one person down, but allow a similar circumstance.
discrimination.
Yeah, yes, right.
Well, just keep in mind we already have an issue with ADA, access, so even having the use of the upstairs, for instance, with the art show is kind of questionable.
But I think the way we got away from that, we're not charging.
Right.
So they
And
weren't
we
charging to
did
the
everything
event,
we
I
could
mean,
to help people get,
yeah, it was kind of, yeah. If we were charging, I think we would have found ourselves in a little bit of trouble with ADA, but if you're opening up to let somebody borrow your space.
well, look, I don't want to be the,
Well, I think the policy that some places have distinguishes between a nonprofit and a for-profit.
I think we already do that, though. I think pretty much any nonprofit that comes in here, I think your daughter used it for something, if I'm not mistaken.
Dollars for Scholars.
Yeah, Dollars for Scholars, or I think there was a Girl Scout event in here at one point. So I think we already do allow any nonprofit. That's an easy one for me, and I think our policy, or our maybe an unwritten policy, is that we
well,
typically.
there would be nonprofits that discriminate that I wouldn't want in here, for instance. I mean, that's just, I'm not going to offer up the space for that. And there are such private organizations. That's where I'm getting at.
Sure.
I know that the decision to have the Dollars for Scholars and the Girl Scouts in here was never passed by me. I don't particularly have a problem with it, but.
Yes, it was done in the meeting.
Yeah, he asked at a meeting
Did you?
Yeah.
for your daughter's event. That wasn't a Girl Scout event, that was your daughter's
That's the
event.
beauty, that's why I spent 24 years in the Navy and fought for this country, so we can all be different.
Oh, that's fine.
And that corporation, that non-for-profit that you don't care, is just as much right. Mark said it perfectly, and again, I'm just an employee here, but you can't, if they're making money, they're making money.
Then either take a cut of it or
Well, my opinion, I think we should be renting this place, so,
Well, that's-
and we figure out a dollar thing, what it costs us a year to run this building, and that's what it is, we don't have to be a big
That
profit.
gets, I don't, yes,
That's kind of where I was going. If we
That's
wanted
going,
to
yeah.
have a policy where we would charge a for-profit to use the space
Absolutely.
and a nonprofit not to. I mean,
Yep.
distinguish that.
It's too.
And even then, though, you've gotta have- yeah.
Be empty all the time.
you're right. But even then, you also don't wanna, you gotta be careful with even policies like that, because if you just put a dollar amount down, there's some things you don't want happening in these buildings.
Well,
So there's gotta be,
That's right, at some point, you have to spell it out. Obviously, well, here's the first one, it's a public building, and as you recall, the fire station, which is a public building, had to stop serving alcohol. So right there is, I don't know if it was for insurance reasons or what, but right there is kind of drawing a line about who can,
right,
So
for
fine.
what types of,
so there's things that you have to discriminate against, because either for your own liability, or for the safety, or for the buildings, the maintenance of the building. I mean, we could have bachelor parties, probably not a very good idea.
probably not.
no, not alcohol. But, you bring up a point, let's just forget about a wine taster, okay, and that's different than slugging a bunch of beers in a
Yeah.
bikini. But somebody wants to come in and sell furry
It's got a mental
hats,
picture I didn't need to get.
you know what I mean, again, If it was up to me, I'd let them all in here, and I know what this building costs to heat, I know what it costs to light in a year, I divide it by 365, and guess what? That's what you're here for today. Have a nice day, move on. And, you know, and
Your
as
job
long
of
as-
cleaning is gonna be a lot harder.
you
You're
know
offering
what?
a space.
Well, that could also, but you could write that into
I don't know
the
if
agreement you have.
I don't know if you know how people leave it after a meeting. Do you think everybody's tidy? Everybody's neat,
Well, I most certainly am.
right? So, that's, but here's the answer.
I think that there's a lot of people in the community that have a problem with this being just a place for
A
anybody
strip
to,
mall, yes.
for, you know,
But-
even for festivals and stuff in the winter, tracking in and out of here is very different in the winter than it is in the summer.
Yeah, but I don't think it would be that much of a problem, especially in events like that. Again, we just talked about it, we wanna, what's the difference in opening and letting George Larigo, a private citizen, right? 'Cause that's what George is. Opening this because a bunch of snobby people that can afford a $20,000 train ride, and we're letting them into our building? Why should we do that? No, and we're not gonna let somebody who wants to come to a festival that could,
All
Spend money in
George
our
is doing is letting people who are interested in the architecture and the history of the building see the building. That's very different. Easily different than selling a
again,
product.
and it's just, what I'm saying is, and I agree, I'd let everybody.
We should have a docent in town that lets anybody who wants to see this building
I'd
and
let-
have a tour of it.
And I would let somebody in, and on public sanctioned festivals of any kind. We sanction the art park, the inside art, the winter carnival, on all those, bring them vendors in.
Well, again,
Now, you,
what the art park does for this village is very and its intent is very different, frankly, than the winter festival.
and it should be, because why do we have one all the same? We don't want all the same, it's stale.
No,
We want different things.
but
No, not the same thing as their
But who's
intent,
making,
but, yeah.
you know, the end game is, who's making money?
The artists that sell their art, displayed on our piece of property for nothing.
Well-
I gotta mow around all day, and I gotta weed eat, and I gotta listen to the curator, and have to stay away from it. Believe me, it's a lot more hassle than you think, than just setting up.
Don't pretend to think it's not.
You know what? We're gonna table this discussion until there's a full board here. We'll start with that. And I think that the people who are requesting specifically, we're looking for an answer quickly, and I don't think we can give them one. So, and they'll be okay with that. But I do want to come up with something that works for us.
Yeah.
And it may take some time to hash that out. What does Bennington do? Does Bennington have any public space that they?
Yes, they have a firehouse. And it probably, the line, one of the lines, the benchmarks is no alcohol.
Right.
Unless you have a licensed.
That's right.
So say a person like Kevin's, and I don't know if his liquor license allows him to
Yes,
remove.
They do, you do wires on your license, and they give you a day permit basically to go off.
And if that person that's legal, with all the insurance liability behind it,
That's, yeah.
And they do open it up to, we used to use it for like monument soccer signups. So you petition to use it, and you're a nonprofit, they don't charge you anything. So similar to what we do here, it's just, I think theirs is much more, I mean, you would know, they're very clear, defined, it's probably written down, it's,
Sounds like a policy we ought to heavily plagiarize. They've got to have a
well, something
policy,
to take a look at.
you know?
But again, that space is very different from this space.
Actually, the league probably has one too.
Or the League of City and Towns,
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
Good point. All right.
I seem to have them on everything else.
There may be a simple answer to this that I'm not seeing. I wonder what they do with religious organizations down there
Down.
in Bennington.
You know, if they're a nonprofit and they're doing something, I'm sure they let them use it.
I just had a sense that public space should be.
Well, it's not, because it's not, like, something like that, if you're talking about a religious
Well,
organization, if they're using it, if it's a day use where they're doing, like a quilt, whatever. it's-
Right. No,
Very soon.
but proselytizing religion with a revival. Might be a little something different.
That's the beauty of this country, man.
Yeah, okay.
That's the beauty of this country. It's
I'm about church and state, man, that's my thing, I'm sorry, but.
Well, and that's okay. It's whether they have a monopoly on it. Now, one might say that the art show, at one point in time, had a monopoly on that other side of the building for 3 months.
Right, only because there was nobody else, then people started realizing, boy, we'd like to use that space. I get people ask, but almost daily, would you rent that space up there? You know, can we have offices up there?
Don't tell them to come ask me, because they'll be moved in next week.
It's another part of this thing that we ought to revisit. That's why I've been talking about elevators and stuff, so that you
Right
have.
now, you can't rent it out.
You could, for anybody who doesn't provide us, doesn't have public, if you were.
As long as they don't have to have their clients
The
enter
clients
the
don't have to
building.
come to the building, it'd be fine. Anyway,
But is there adequate fire exits?
probably not.
So you probably couldn't rent it out, actually.
Well, we did, there was a time,
I won't tell.
and that was that didn't work out so
Yeah.
well. I'm sorry for all this.
Got a little
Well,
sidetracked there.
they're important questions, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have anything else, and I don't believe we have an executive. Do we, for some legal stuff? Okay. All right, we need a motion to go into executive.
Also move.
Second.
For the-
Favor?
Yes.
Aye.